A silent killer may have just ripped a hole straight through Russia's pride. In the dead of night, deep inside what was supposed to be a secure Russian harbor, Moscow is panicking. Something unseen slipped beneath the water and struck. No sirens, no warning, just steel, darkness, and a shockwave Russia refuses to acknowledge. If this attack is real, it doesn't merely damage a weapon. It shatters an entire naval future. Because when a submarine is crippled and cannot be repaired, it isn't a setback. It's a death sentence.
Is that in the last couple of weeks, the Ukrainian government has announced that they have used a new type of drone, a subsea drone, to attack and destroy a Russian submarine, a Kilo class, in the Russian port of Novorossiysk. The reason I've waited so long to comment on this is because the details were vague. The Russians have denied it. The Russians deny everything. And the Ukrainians haven't provided a lot of evidence. We do have satellite photos now that indicate there was damage on the inside of the port. Whether or not a submarine was hit or sunk is unclear. I would note that if you put a reasonably sized bomb on the outside of a submarine, that submarine is not going to go underwater, or if it does go underwater, it will never come back up again. So it doesn't take much damage to take one of these out for the long term, and the Russians no longer have the capacity to refit them because that equipment is in Crimea, and Crimea is under regular air drone assault. So if this Kilo class sub was even mildly damaged, it's out.
What's being described here is devastating. Even minor underwater damage can permanently sideline a submarine. Russia simply doesn't have the ability to repair these assets because its repair facilities sit in territory under constant attack. That means a single successful strike doesn't just disable one vessel. It wipes out years of industrial effort and capability. If that submarine was even lightly damaged, it's effectively lost. Russia can't restore it, and it certainly can't replace it anytime soon. What happened in that harbor wasn't just a military incident. It was a warning shot, a signal that the war Russia tried to export, contain, and control is no longer staying at a distance. It doesn't end at the front line. It doesn't stop at the border. And it doesn't respect the illusion of safety inside Russia's largest cities. When weapons fall silent underwater, something else begins to scream above ground. Darkness, silence, fear. And that leads to the next reality Russia is now confronting. A new year in Moscow, unlike anything its people were promised. By 2026, one brutal truth could no longer be hidden. The war had come home to Russia, exactly where it belongs. Not just the distant regions near Ukraine, not just the forgotten provinces, but straight into the heart of the Russian Federation, into Moscow, into Putin's showcase cities, into neighborhoods that once symbolized privilege, comfort, and untouchable safety. As this video is being recorded, roughly 600,000 people in Moscow are sitting in darkness. No electricity, no clear explanation. And worse than that, no mobile internet. They can't check what happened. They can't verify official statements. They can't share videos, photos, or even their panic with the outside world. They are cut off, blind, and isolated. And in that silence, one realization hits harder than any explosion. The so-called special military operation is no longer far away. It's right outside their apartment doors. Authorities claim it's a technical malfunction. Something broke, something failed. But here's the problem. Everything inside the Russian Federation has been malfunctioning ever since the Kremlin overestimated its strength and underestimated reality. Whether drones were involved or not no longer matters. The result is the same. Power is gone. Communication is gone. And the illusion of control is gone with it. This blackout isn't happening in remote villages no one can pronounce. It's hitting some of the most expensive and desirable areas near Moscow, including elite residential districts like Romanovskaya and Litvinovo. Once again, nearly 600,000 people are affected. People who were told they were safe. People who believed war was something Russia delivered to others, not something it would ever experience itself. And this didn't happen in isolation. Russians don't even need to follow the news anymore to understand what's unfolding. Telegram channels are overflowing with reports of destroyed facilities across the country, oil processing sites, logistics hubs, critical infrastructure. Even those who avoid every message still feel the truth at gas stations, where prices keep climbing at banks, where fear spreads faster than any rumor. A quiet panic is setting in. Ordinary Russians are pulling money out of banks, even from institutions once considered untouchable like Sberbank. When people lose faith in their financial system, that's not hysteria. It's survival instinct. And that instinct is screaming right now. What's happening in Moscow today is something Ukrainian cities have endured for more than 3 years. Relentless strikes on energy infrastructure, sudden blackouts, long nights without power. The difference is simple. It didn't break Ukraine. Ukrainians adapted. They organized schedules, relied on generators and batteries, leaned on community resilience, and learned how to respond. Now, Russia is tasting its own medicine. All signs suggest the targeted electrical infrastructure is directly tied to military production. At this stage, the entire Russian economy serves a single purpose: feeding Putin's war machine. Civilian life is no longer priority. And despite this full militarization, the Kremlin still cannot protect Moscow's airspace. It cannot shield key facilities. It cannot guarantee uninterrupted power in its own capital. Flights are canceled regularly. Moscow's airports, once symbols of global connectivity, shut down multiple times a week. Chaos ripples through terminals. Plans collapse. Delays pile up. And with every disruption, more people understand what they were lied to about in 2022. Back then, Putin claimed the war was launched to protect Russia. Today, Russia is less secure than it has been in decades. Meanwhile, Ukraine, battered, attacked, betrayed at times, keeps getting stronger. Strong enough to produce its own missiles. Strong enough to build long-range drones. Strong enough to send a message directly to Moscow. Do you still like war when it's on your territory? Here's the most uncomfortable truth for the Kremlin. This war could end instantly. The moment Russian troops withdraw from Ukraine, it all stops. No blackouts. No airspace closures. No isolation. But instead, Moscow plays theater. Fake negotiations, manufactured incidents, empty claims of restraint, while flipping mobile internet on and off like a switch. Not to protect people, but to control information. The situation inside Russia is so bad that mobile internet was shut down roughly 12,000 times in 2025 alone. 12,000. That's not security. That's censorship fueled by panic. It began in Moscow ahead of Victory Day, when authorities feared drones over Putin's parade. The worst periods came in August and December. On average, mobile internet was disabled across thousands of regions every day. And let's be clear, Ukraine is not sending drones to thousands of regions daily. This has nothing to do with air defense. It has everything to do with silencing reality. Reality like protests. Reality like economic strain. Reality like rising taxes and living costs. Reality like a population slowly realizing its future is being burned for one man's obsession. Even during blackouts, Ukrainians continue to share the truth. They record, they upload, they speak, because there is no censorship sealing their mouths. Russia doesn't have that freedom. And when the lights go out there, panic fills the vacuum. Russians were never prepared for this. They don't have backup power. They don't have systems. In many cases, generators meant for hospitals and public institutions are stolen, even from their own cities. The same behavior seen in newly liberated Ukrainian territories is now happening at home, a dark reflection of society consuming itself under pressure. For Ukrainians, this is an existential fight about survival, identity, and freedom. For Russians, war was once a distant luxury, inflicted on others while daily life continued uninterrupted. That illusion shattered in 2025. Now, every Russian region is effectively a war zone, and this didn't start yesterday. Putin set this collapse in motion in 2014 and fully unleashed it in 2022. What we're seeing now isn't chaos. It's consequence. Dark streets in Moscow, silent phones, empty airports, nervous banks, rising prices, and a population slowly waking up to a truth they were never meant to see. This is what war looks like when it finally comes home.